don't think it's any secret at this point that I think the corporate world of defence is fascinating, and I think you should too. And a lot of people don't understand why I find it so amazing. So I'm going to try and explain it today. Why the defence industry is such an amazing thing from a business systems perspective. Now here's what we're going to do. Picture in your mind's eye a big business. Could sell tyres, biscuits, wine, consultancy services, digital infrastructure, take your pick. Now consider the constraints that this firm is under, the pressures that underlie the industry, the difficulties it has to face in being run. This tyre firm, for example, most likely has to meet certain regulations, a tread depth of more than 1.6 millimeters. Maybe it has difficult logistics. Maybe it has a factory which is tricky to run. Perhaps the aluminium supply is one that is difficult to create a supply chain around. Perhaps for our consultancy, there are really quite stringent privacy agreements with clients and they have to keep those. Or maybe large corporate overlay, which has to be well organized. Now imagine the firm in your head, figuratively add more burden, as the defence industry has. And I'll take you through this. First, to our firm, we're going to add the pressures of the highest capitalization deals for goods and services, both of which it sells. So here there is intense structuring that has to be done, the likes of which a gaggle of deal-making specialized law firms would really struggle or fail to deal with. And as a result, project management and development within this industry is also incredibly high capitalization, meaning higher risk because of higher investment. High capitalization deals and high capitalization projects means that a firm has to be more financially conservative, which creates constraints in itself in the reinvestment of profits. Now, the more conservative with risk in general it is, we can say that that is certainly a huge constraint, that the capitalization of these deals and projects is something which most industries would crumble under the weight of. But more than this, these high capitalization deals mean that the goods and services that the firm delivers are of epic proportions, which increases risk anyway. Now, of course, this alone would probably be the boulder that broke the back of most firms, but not the defence industry. Now next, your firm, your imaginary firm, has to deal with arguably the most difficult supply chain to ever exist. It's one of the largest scale industrial supply chains, which is regulated, and rightly so, to a degree that various materials have to be kept secret. At certain chains, they are impossible. That is to say, that if certain goods and services are regulated, it means that certain supply chains are impossible to create. It means there are additional barriers to the creation of functioning business systems. Now imagine the goods your firm is under regulation for are to be kept secret, organized under regulated environments, whether a good or service. And this, of course, means that you're going to have to hire more people to oversee this. But also imagine you'll need specialized individual permission and specialized individual sites in order to test any product or service you might want to develop. Also imagine that you will need a supply chain for these specialized goods. And as I say, this is no easy task. That is to say that the goods and services you are after, the components of your final good, whether, as I say, a good or a service, they're not generally available on the common market. Either they have to be got through specialized suppliers, which takes a hell of a lot of paperwork and a lot of difficulty in order to acquire, or they have to be custom made, in which case the choice is either pay someone else a lot of money to do it or make it yourself. In any case, there are a lot more hoops to jump through in order to make this work. Now that alone would put most firms out of business. Now imagine that your imaginary firm, in order to stay alive, which it has done for likely over a century, will have to continue to develop products. That isn't to say that it can just bring out new products, but imagine your firm has to continue to develop products really indefinitely, each more excellent than the last. And once it delivers effectively the most excellent, brilliant product that it can, it has to move on to the next and improve it enormously. Once the Jaffa cake, let's say, was invented, it was just sold. The process continued, but oh no. For your firm, you get to sell your product or service to the government once, maybe a few times in deliverable installments. maybe some maintenance contracts. But from here, you have to go back to the drawing board or upgrade your product hugely. And this product was the best you had to put forward, meaning you have to effectively outdo yourself every single time you get a sale. Now this means the supply chain you worked tirelessly to create for this product, which is incredibly difficult in the first place, isn't set. And it's not useful indefinitely. You have to constantly change, develop, update supply chains after production is complete. But then again, you always also have to have prior supply chains ready just in case more units are needed or more units are bought from somewhere else in the world. All in all, supply chains are really quite difficult. You only get to sell your product once or a few times to a couple of countries, and then once you've done this, it is straight back to the drawing board because technology advances so very quickly. Now imagine the development of a new product, or at the very least an upgrade of that product every 3 years or so after its creation. But of course, for this to be allowed, you have to have the facilities to build the old one, because otherwise you'll miss the profits from potential clients who want to buy it when it's more affordable. But likely you'll still probably have to pay the same price. It will be just as expensive for you though, but you have to offload it because at the end of the day, if your supply chain is not perfectly run, bearing in mind you cannot use the just-in-time model, you have to have a certain amount of stock, anything not used is effectively loss. Now, most firms would be done in by this concept itself. Now enter your firm into a stringent competition system, a process by which every aspect of a proposal which it has to draft and invest a lot of time and money into will be scrutinized by the client. Now, this isn't irregular, but the firm has to meet specifications perfectly, offer something better than other firms, either a chunk out of your own profit margin, a more advanced or more expensive technology, for you that is, you don't get to charge them a higher price. Additionally, this process requires that you coordinate and work with other firms who can make your product even better. Now you're cooperating with similarly difficult and complex businesses, 1, 2, 3, maybe up to 6 other firms that you need to collaborate with, each of which is under similar constraints that you are, each of which has a huge corporate system that underlies it, each of which has incredibly complex operations that you will have to deal with and interact seamlessly with, considering the pressure that your operations and systems are also under. Also, the likelihood is that you'll lose a lot of money if you don't win this competition. And by the time the next competition comes around, it will be too late to sell what you have. You'll have to develop something brand new or far better. You may lose a great deal of investment that you put into this enormously high capitalization proposal. So effectively, you get one shot. If you can't sell what you have, the thing that you invest a lot of time and money into, the concept is effectively void. Not only do you have to redesign if you lose, but again, you have to redesign if you win. So that's pretty difficult, and this would drive a lot of firms rather quickly to bankruptcy. Now that you've done all of this, your firm will, despite its extreme importance and the importance of the role it plays, be given an ever-increasingly important ESG rating that's really quite low. Now beyond this, people have reservations, often militant reservations, and the pun is intended, about the work that your firm does. That is to say that this firm will be lumped in with gambling, alcohol and tobacco firms. All in all, this means raising capital is significantly harder, something that all businesses need due to really the high capitalization contracts and the high capitalization, I guess you'd say, cost of investment or reinvestment within new products, which are necessary because you always have to go back to the drawing board. More than this, in relation to your public listing, which puts you partially at the whims of the market, the government will, probably quite rightly, hold the golden share, or certainly a great degree of sway over the firm, meaning the government basically has veto power over what you do in regard to business systems. Now, in effect, you have to be beyond reproach. The distrust the public has for this firm, despite the essential goods and services that it delivers for their safety and protection, means that you're likely going to be accused of other things. You have to be beyond reproach not only in what you create, but financially, far more transparent than other firms in the manner, by which you are beyond reproach. So you now have to spend a decent amount on investor relations departments, public relations departments, in order to help the public understand the essential nature of your firm. More than this, you choose your own accord to hold mentally envisioned firms to the highest standards of workplace conduct, with some of the best employee pay, highest standards of well-being, and ensuring the physical safety and security of employees with stringent protective protocols, which is rather expensive. And this takes place physically, intellectually, for and from employees, for the goods and services that they're making. And this would cripple most normal firms' abilities to raise capital. It would make it really quite difficult. And of course, in the development of any product, which takes a rather long time, probably at minimum 10 years to develop, if you then miss and fail to hit the contract, then every single one of your efforts has been entirely wasted. It is null and void. And likely your firm has been wrecked several times over by now. Defense firms are, as I've said many times, bastions of industry. Really like Atlas, with the literal weight of the defense world on their shoulders. The defense of the world on their shoulders. As well as regulation and business considerations, which are pretty pressurized, as you will understand. Now imagine that this firm, which is already under huge constraints, as well as the normal constraints that other firms face, this is really additional. Business systems are difficult to run in and of themselves. Imagine now this firm that you've envisaged. In order to even compete in the market, it needs specialized sites to make the most hardy equipment possible. And it has to employ extreme specialists and skilled workers in order to develop each and every product. Moreover, these skilled people are also likely part of a union, one which has to be dealt with on a fairly constant basis, and stringent conditions have to be kept. On the workforce front as well, your firm, in order to win the aforementioned competition, likely must create new, high-paying jobs in order for the offer to be attractive, and create the product domestically, which again, while positive, has supply chain difficulty implications. Now, additionally, you work for the government, meaning beyond firm transparency, the content of your deals also has to be acceptable to the general public. It has to garner public support, or at least not public outrage, and the approval of the national populace, or else your firm is condemned harshly. This condemnation comes alongside the condemnation of the government, to which you are a major contributing factor. So not only in what you create are you subject to the whims of public opinion, which will also affect the degree to which you can gain investment, which is already difficult, but you are a major contributing factor in what you sell to the public perception of the government and the general unity and contentment of the nation, which is a huge responsibility. Now, more than this, the thing you're producing is designed for the most dire of situations, meaning in the development of it, you cannot fail. Your product must perform excellently under pressure, and not even objectively excellently, but in comparison to the performance of products of other nations, which likely have more funding for these firms. Now, all of these parameters are necessary, or correct. After all, it's a unique industry in a unique circumstance in which it has to be regulated more, in which a lot of these considerations are something which cannot be passed over. But nonetheless, my point is that after all of these considerations and the fact that these firms can survive, not only survive, but thrive, it's incredibly respectable that these firms are able to continue with one of the most interesting, most harsh really, business systems that exist on the planet. They're under pressure, financially, physically, socially, politically, environmentally, really in every aspect of their existence. And it's quite amazing that these business systems continue to function as they do, which is, as I say, incredibly positively. And not only is it an industry which sustains itself, but one where firms are, as I said, at the forefront of everything. You have to accept these business considerations, which effectively give way to bureaucracy, general difficulty, and the rest. And then you have to be one of, if not the most innovative industries on the planet. If you look at defense firms, they are the most innovative front runners for science and technology, and often software. So one can wonder why I claim the corporate side of defense is beyond amazing, and the advanced systems they procure are also brilliant. And now perhaps you can see why. It's really because, as I said, they're at the forefront of everything, be it related to technology, business, or logistics. So what I'd say is, as we appreciate the cannon, as we appreciate the cargo plane, we should certainly appreciate the defense industry. I mean, really, tardigrades are not as hardy. They could not survive in such harsh environments. And for that, I think that you should, at the very least, agree that the business systems of the defense industry are incredible. I'll leave it there.